Hey Meredith, it's good seeing you.
Yeah, you too.
So, what's going on in Madison?
Well, I just flew in yesterday afternoon and had a pretty chill evening. Just had some dinner, kind of hanging out in the hotel. Got to sleep in this morning, had some breakfast, and then just finished building my bikes actually. And they're we're gonna head over to the course in a little while, see if we can sneak on, get maybe one lap in. But at the same time, I kind of am having this dilemma of if it's even worth going out to the course today because so much is going to change between now and Sunday when I race that I don't want to get caught up in what's happening out there because it's going to be so different in a couple days. So I don't know if maybe I'll go do a lap or not, but probably get outside and definitely spin for a little bit today and just kind of try to stay as chill and relaxed and do all the right things to stay hydrated and eat well and everything for the next couple days.
Maybe a little trainer ride, maybe. Uh,
Yeah, maybe a little train ride.
no, it's I've heard the weather conditions are fairly horrible and cold.
Yeah.
So mostly cold, I guess. I guess that.
Well, actually, I haven't been outside yet today. I'm just looking out the window because it's really foggy and gray today. But I heard that it's not that cold. The high today is supposed to be 46 or 47 or something like that. So it's actually not that cold out. I think it's supposed to get a little cooler tomorrow, and then by Sunday it's a high of 22. So definitely over the next couple days, it's going to get a lot colder. But yeah, I think that the temperature is okay today.
So how is um, so how do you think it will compare to racing back in Europe? Have you had any extremely cold races while back in Europe, or were they
Actually,
mostly
no.
just muddy?
Yeah, we got pretty lucky while we were in Europe. It was not that cold. When it's raining every day and it's muddy, sometimes it can feel a little colder than it really is just because you're wet. But it actually was not that cold. It was probably in the upper 40s and 50s most of the time. I prefer to race without gloves on. Most of the races I was, not using gloves. This is going to be a lot different. The conditions here I think, will be a lot more challenging in different ways, just because of the temperatures mostly, and we're dealing with ice instead of mud.
And I mean, like for most people who have never fallen on snow and ice, you may as well fall on pavement. It's not
Yeah, falling on
as
ice does not feel good at all. I would much rather fall in the mud. I mean, there's nothing to worry about when you're falling into the mud over in Europe. So this is going to hurt a lot more here if you fall.
no, absolutely. So you said you flew in yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon.
How much time had you spent in Europe before coming here?
I was over in Europe for 2 weeks.
So
Yep.
it's reasonably short. So mostly just all these post Christmas
Yes,
races.
just the Christmas races. I was originally supposed to go over and do the first two Czech World Cups, but I broke my hand right before that. So that's where my season kind of came to a halt. And so I knew that I originally had not planned on going over to do any of the Christmas races. But then after I broke my hand, then I knew that it was going to be necessary, partly because I wanted to be able to, try to automatically qualify for Worlds, and then also I knew I needed the racing, and there wasn't as much racing over here, and the racing over there is just, is just kind of one or more, steps above what we get here, and I knew that that's what I needed to push me to get my fitness back.
So when you go to Europe, do you stay like in a hotel, or do you stay with a family, or how does that work out?
This time I rent an apartment in Oudenaarde, where it's an area where there's a lot of cyclists in the area. Helen Wyman from Great Britain is there. Pete Weber, who's the current Masters World Champion, was staying right next door to me, and he and his family were helping me out. And Jonathan Page lives in that town as well. So there's a lot of people stay at a place called the Hofsterkammen. And so there were a lot of Americans actually in the area. Some of the Cliff Bar kids, Crystal Anthony, and her crew. So it was a really great area to stay. It's the first time I'd ever been to that part of Belgium before. A lot of time, or in the past, I've stayed near where Katie and Mark Compton stay, and they've kind of looked after me, and their family has sort of taken me under their wing too. But it didn't work out quite as well this year to do that. So that's why I went to Oudenaarde and it's a fantastic area. It's near the Koppenberg. It's actually the town where the Tour of Flanders finishes. So if you're there for a long time and you need to do solid training, you have the option to go up in the hills, the Belgian hills, and do some training, or you can stay flat. Like once I started racing, I was just going out for easy recovery rides and just staying on the bike paths and stuff like that. And it's a great area for riding, and then super easy with the downtown markets and bakeries and all that kind of stuff right there.
I'm amazed you get even any training in when you're there because it seems like you're racing every day.
Right. So I wasn't actually training per se. It was mostly recovery because I raced every other day. So I did 5 races. There were two days in between the first 2 World Cups, but then after that, I raced every other day. So those days in between, it's just an easy recovery ride, and sometimes not even riding at all if you're really tired.
As for your schedule here now, so you're gonna do the national championships, and then you're heading to Louisville, or?
No, well, we have 3 weeks in between nationals in Louisville. So I'll, assuming that I make the team, because we won't find out until Tuesday with the official team selection, what the official team is. So assuming I make the team, I'll be home for 2 weeks, and then there's the race in Cincinnati the weekend before Louisville, which I know, from being in Europe, a lot of the Euros who are coming over for Worlds are planning on going to Cincinnati to race, and it's just a one-day race on Saturday. I think it's the 26th, but I think that the field is going to be a pretty solid, field with a lot of Europeans racing too. So my plan is probably to go to Cincinnati to race, and then stay in Louisville for the week to do final preparations for Worlds.
In terms of nationals this weekend. How do you feel? How's the form?
I feel good. I was, feeling really good over in Europe, was, very pleased with my results and how I was racing in such treacherous conditions, and felt like my fitness was definitely coming around. Sure, I was getting tired towards the end, but I think that's pretty reasonable when you're racing day after day or every other day. And so I came home, got some good rest, took a few days to recover, and then I have had a couple solid training days before coming out here to Madison. So I feel good. Now, whatever's going to happen on Sunday, I don't know, because with these conditions here, I really don't think it's going to be I don't think the person who wins is necessarily going to be the fittest or the fastest. I think it's going to be a person who can, best handle cold conditions, cold temperatures, and the icy course too. So it might be the person who makes the fewest mistakes at the end of the day. I mean, sure, you need fitness and power and speed and all that kind of stuff too, but it's going to be a person who can keep their wits about them and stay focused and not get too flustered, because we're going to make mistakes. There's no doubt about it. So it's a matter of who can bounce back from that okay and stay focused and on task.
And of course, maybe a little bit of luck may be good as well.
A lot of luck. I think a lot of luck involved, for sure.
Let's talk about your sponsors quick. How's that going? All well?
Oh, it's fantastic. So it was pretty cool being over in Europe with my Specialized with the S-Works Crux, because I'm using disc brakes. So SRAM, I'm on SRAM Red, and we're using the Avid disc brakes. And the Euros haven't quite embraced the disc brakes yet. They think they're still a little too heavy. They've been using Caney brakes forever, and so they're just like, nah, we don't need them yet. But it was pretty interesting seeing how many people would come around and just look at my bike and be like, wow, it's actually pretty cool, and I think Stibar is probably the only pro over there, well, one of the few pros that, has a disc brake. He doesn't actually race on it yet, I don't think, but it was pretty cool. One day I needed some brake pads because we were kind of, running through those pretty quickly in those conditions, and I was able to go over to Stibar's mechanic, and he gave me some brake pads. So, everybody is really interested in the S-Works, in the Specialized bikes with the disc brakes, and everything performed really well. My mechanics in the pits, people were even coming over and kind of like pretty impressed, because he wasn't having to do a lot, in the pits, in between laps, in between bike exchanges. And so everything was working really well. And, I raced on zip wheels, and in those muddy conditions, you think that, it's pretty soft underneath, but actually there's a lot of rocks and roots, and you don't know necessarily what you're hitting all the time. I didn't have a single problem with my wheels, and I was running really low tire pressure, like 16, 17 pounds, which for me is pretty low, and was still able to hit the rims and bottom out every now and then, and not once did I have a problem with my wheels. So I was pretty fortunate that everything worked as well as it did over there because, I'm going over with a pretty minimal package of extra tool or extra parts and all that kind of stuff and wheels and equipment. So you got to go over hoping that you have the best of luck.
Right.
And keep your fingers crossed that everything's going to work well and you don't need a lot of replacement stuff. And I was very fortunate that all my equipment performed so well.
Excellent. Hey, what do you think pressure-wise you're going to have to run here on this super hard icy course?
Well, if I was running 17 pounds in the icy or the muddy stuff in Europe, I have a feeling that I wouldn't doubt, a couple pounds lower than that, maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to say exactly how much ice is out on that course, but I think most of the course is going to be pretty icy. And from what I remember on this course last year, when we had slightly warmer temperatures, it was still icy, and we were running low pressure, and you're just trying to stay in the ruts and stuff. So of course, there's always that fine balance between running enough pressure that you're not gonna that you're not riding on your rim around the entire course, but lower pressure so that you're getting some traction on the ice if you can get any traction on ice. So I'm guessing probably somewhere between 15 to 16, 17 pounds, something like that.
That sounds just crazy, but hey.
It is. And so I'm lucky that I was riding such lower pressure in Europe and getting used to that. So there might be a few people out here who've never tried to ride such low pressure before, and it's a weird feeling. It takes a little while to get used to. So in that sense, I have that I know that feeling. I know what it's going to feel like when we get out on the course and I'm kind of drifting through corners and it feels like I'm riding on a flat, but I know that I'm not. So hopefully I have that that plays to my advantage a little bit.
Well, we wish you a lot of luck on Sunday. A great race.
Thank you.
No tumbles.
Yeah, right. No, I don't think that's going to happen. We'll see. We'll have to see how many. We'll have to count up. I'll have to try to keep track of how many times I tumbled during the race because I know that it's going to be a few.
That sounds great. Well, but keep them to a minimum.
Yeah, I will try, of course.
All right. Be good. See you.
Thank you.